Well, hello there. So I'm going to show you how to make my oyster pearl hat. I knew I could get it out. Okay, so this is what it looks like. I'm making a hat, and it looks like this. It's a very nice looking stitch, and I did an owl eye brim. But I'm probably going to use the inside, and I'm making this hat reversible, and I can actually use both sides when I'm in the mood for them. So on the inside, this is what the stitch looks like. You can see the oyster pearls in there too. And then you have this kind of a brim. Okay, so the cast on and the way I did the brim was so that it would look like this and have this braided edge, and on the inside it would also have this braided edge. So I'm going to show you how to do this, but also if you want to do the cast on where I do garter stitch for a couple rows before I do the owl eye stitch, you can do that if you like that better. But this is the look I wanted for this hat. I like the way that goes, and I also like the way that it goes on this side. So I will show you how to do that to catch you up to where I am. Now the yarn I'm using, I do not remember the color number, sorry, but it is a Charisma yarn that I got at Michael's. And it's the one that has all the color blues and white. Okay. And the loom hook I'm using was from We Have a Handle on this. They're not making them currently, but they are going to start up again. But you can get a similar one to this on Etsy. Okay, so to get you started, I'm going to use this yarn, and this is a NACO Pop Mix. Oh, the loom I'm using, I forgot to tell you about the loom. This is a 3/4 inch loom, and it's from one of the round circle sets. This one in particular is from the Darius knitting loom set, so it's the second one down, the 36 peg. Okay, so the yarn I'm using is this one. It's called NACO Pop Mix. Oh, that's shining there, and it is a bulky yarn, and it is I think something like 25% wool and 75% acrylic. I can find it here. Yep, that's what it is, and it's a bulky. And I'm just going to use a Cindywood loom here, and this one has 36 pegs. It would be a kid's hat, but I'm just going to show you how to cast on and get started, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to get set up here, and we'll see you in a couple minutes. Okay, so here I am, and I'm ready to get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is just do a slip knot. And how I do my slip knots is I just go like this. This yarn wants to curl on me. I just want to go across like this. Okay, like that. And then I just put the working yarn through and pull. Put that on the first peg and tighten. Okay, I'm just going to take the loom hook. I'm going to put it down inside the loop on peg 1 here, and I'm going to scoop up a loop of yarn. Okay, and I can drop my loom hook again. I have this loop here that can get bigger or smaller depending on what I do with the working yarn, and I have this little piece here which I'm going to keep tight. Okay, we take the loop, put it behind peg 2, snug it up. Behind peg 2, snug it up. Now you have to do this cast on if you want to do the brim the way I did. If you want to do the E-wrap cast on, you want to do a couple rows of garter before you start the owl eye stitch. Okay, but when you do this cast on, you just take the loop, put it behind, pull the working yarn through, loop, put it behind, pull the working yarn through. You need it to be smaller, make it smaller. You need it to be bigger, make it bigger. Pretty easy, and you just go all the way around. This is a crochet chain cast on. Pretty easy to do. Ignore the markers I have on this loom because I have them set up for another project I'm going to do, and the loom was here, so I thought I'd show you how to do the cast on and get started. Okay, so I'm just going to continue until I get to the first peg. And I'm just going to put you on pause because I'm just going to keep going, and it's going to be a long, boring video if that's all you're watching is me go around and around. Okay, so I'm almost all the way around, and I'm here where the working yarn is, and I'm going to go just over this peg, and I'm just going to loop it over this peg and knit them all over here like that. So I only have one loop left on here. And then I'm going to start in doing the owl eye stitch on peg 1. And to do that, I'm going to go over peg 1 in a U-wrap, knit it off, come back over peg 1 and go over peg 2. On peg 1, over peg 1 and 2, knit them off. And I'm keeping it nice and loose. On peg 1, go over peg 2. And that's all. I just did the cast on and I went right into owl eye stitch. That's all I did to get that look. Pretty easy. So on peg 1, go over 1 and 2. Peg 1, go over 1 and 2. Okay, and I'm just going to go all the way around to the beginning of the loom, and I will meet you there. Okay, so I'm coming around to where I started the row. And you're just going to keep going, basically. Come back over, first peg again. And you just keep going, doing the owl eye stitch until you get the length of brim that you want. You just keep going. And hard to see anything here. But that's what you have. You have what I did. There's the cast on row, and you're going to see it looking like you have this braided look on both sides. Okay? At the beginning, that's all I did. So keep going till you get the owl eye rows as long as you want them, and then you're ready to do the next stitch, so I'll change back to the other loom. Okay, so here I am on the other loom, and we're ready to do the oyster pearl stitch. So as soon as you've got your owl eye rows as long as you want, we go directly into the stitch. And the first row that we're going to do goes like this. You go over the peg in a U-wrap, knit it off. From behind you come back over, knit it off. From behind you come back and around over, knit it off. It's my magic twist stitch if you want to look at the stitch video to see it. Okay, so I'm going to knit over, come back around, knit over again, come back around and knit over again. That's all there is to it. You knit, come back to the front, go over it again, come back and around to the front, go over it again. Okay, knit it, come back over it, knit it. Okay, so you're going to do row 1 of that. It's a 2-row stitch. So you're going to do this row first, and then when we get to the beginning, we'll do the second row. Okay. Very, very easy. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going till I get close to doing all the way around, and we will catch up. Okay, I'm almost at the end here, so I'll finish doing this row. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm back on the first peg, and what we do is a row of purl. So it's one row of magic twist and then one row of purl. So to do purl, working yarn in, or the loop, pick up the loop, pull the working yarn up, replace the loop, and replace the loop. And you've probably done purling or seen lots of videos on purling. Hook in, pull up the working yarn, replace the loop, slip it over. Okay. Now the thing about this is that you don't get much of a jog. Sometimes when you go from one stitch to the other, you get a big jog. As you can see here, here's where the first peg is. You can't see a really big jog anywhere. See? There's the slightest little line coming down here, barely noticeable. That's where you change stitches. So very, very small jog, barely noticeable. You probably wouldn't notice it. Okay, so you go around and you do your row of purl, then you do another row of the magic twist, and you just keep going until you get the length that you want. And you can use the inside or the outside. So just keep going now, and when you get the length you want, we will catch up again and do the next step. So see you in a bit. Okay, I'm as long as I want to go now. And so all you do now is you're going to do a few rows of E-wrap. You can do 2 or 3, but you want to be able to have E-wrap at the end just so it's easy, because we're going to do a simple reduction so it's not too bulky at the top. So E-wrap is just going around from the back and knitting it over, going around from the back and knitting it over. And you just do that for 2 or 3 rows. And I'm going to take you over to my video for binding off, because I already have one made. And then we'll get back and we'll look at the finished hat. So we will see you then. And now we can go ahead and bind it off. And I'm just going to do a slightly decreased bind off so I don't get a lot of bulk. And it's pretty easy to do. So all we're going to do first is do a row of E-wrap. And it doesn't matter which stitch you ended with, whether you ended with the Jupiter stitch or the U-wrap, it'll work fine either way. So we're just going to E-wrap nice and loose all the way around the loom. And the reason you want to keep it loose is you're going to have to move some stitches, and you want to them to be fairly loose to move. I just kind of gently push it to make sure I'm keeping it nice and loose. Okay, and then you're just going to knit the last one to secure it. Knit it over, and then you're just going to go around the loom and knit off the E-wrap. Okay, so I'll just put you on pause and we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to go by 2s all the way around the loom, and every second peg is going to go on the first peg, the yarn. So you're going to take it off and you're just going to move it over to the peg before it. So just taking it off and moving it to the peg before it. And you're just going to go all the way around the loom. So you'll have 2 loops on peg 1, nothing, 2 loops on peg 2, nothing, or two loops over here. And you're just going to keep doing that so that every second peg will be blank and every second peg will have the 2 loops on it. Okay? So if you are on a uneven loom, you won't have an even amount of pegs, so you just don't bother doing the last one. Doesn't really matter. And because I kept this nice and loose, it's quite easy for me to move these over. Just awkward because the angle I have it, but okay, so I'm going to put you on pause, and as you see how this is looking, and we're just going to meet up when we have that done. Okay, now that you have that all done, all you're going to do is go around the loom and knit the bottom one over the top, like that. And that reduces the bulk so that your cast off and the back of your hat will lay a lot flatter. And more, and then the one more, and there we are, and there's the working yarn coming out of this one. And then all we're going to do is, with the working yarn, go around the loom 1.5 times and just cut your yarn. Now you can either use your loom hook or a needle, and we're just going to go up and scoop up the loops so we can do a drawstring bind off. And I usually use a needle, but if you were going to use your loom hook, which is easy to do with this method, you just take the yarn and pull it through like that. And if you have a needle, you just put the needle on and you're going to pick it up the same way. I usually use a needle. This is so much easier though when you're doing it sometimes. On a bigger loom, I'd for sure want a needle. Okay, so I'm just going to put you on pause and we'll pick it all up and I'll see you at the beginning. Okay, now when we get all the way around, we make sure we pick up the very first stitch that we had already picked up. You want to make sure that every peg is on here. Now all you have to do is take all the pegs off the loom. You just go around and you just flip them off. I'm just holding on to the drawstring here because I want to make sure that it doesn't come off. And we just take them all off. And you can even do it with your fingers. And there we go. All off the loom. We can just put the loom to the side. We don't need it anymore. And then you're going to take the working yarn and you're just going to drawstring the brim closed. Okay, you're just going to make sure that it's all like that. And then when you get it about halfway, you're just going to take the working yarn and put it through the hat and flip it this way because we're going to finish it on the wrong side. And we just bind it up, and as you see here, it's going to be not as bulky as it would have been. We've thinned that out. Okay, and now this is when we do need a needle. So I'm just going to get a needle. I have a needle in this handy dandy little thing. And also you can cut the working yarn a lot shorter. You just need to sew that close. So I'm going to cut it to about there and put the needle through the yarn, or the yarn through the needle. Okay, there we go. So that's threaded, and we're just going to sew this closed. So what I do is, now that I've bound it up, is I kind of pinch it so I can see where that edge was, and then I make sure it's pulled nice and tight. There's the hole in the middle, so I just want to pinch it so I'm at that hole in the middle. And then I just take the needle and I just sort of sew around in a circle around that hole, just picking up some loops. Okay, and then I'm going to actually do a knot. My loom wants, or my yarn wants to be all weird. Go, and I'm going to do another knot. Just want to make sure that this doesn't come apart. I'm just going to go to the other side. And make another knot. And then you can sew the working yarn in if you'd like. I just actually, because it's not going to be reversible, I just cut it and leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. Doesn't bother me. And the other side of your hat looks like this. It's a lot thinner, but we'll take it. And we'll stretch our stitches, because that's what you always do when you make a hat, is you stretch your stitches. You pull it every way and make sure it's all stretched out. And then there's your hat. It's looking really nice. The top is flattened a lot better, your beanie hat, than it would have been. And there you go. You have a beautiful beanie hat. Okay, so here I am with the finished hat. And this is the inside that I wanted to have, with the other side of the owl eye, which I really like the look of too, in the round. And it's a beautiful, beautiful stitch. We've got a ton of texture. And here it is with the decreased brim I did, so it's flatter on top. And if I wanted to use the other side, I just turn it inside out. Here we go. Here we go. Set the stitches a little bit. Here we go. And then you have a hat that looks like this. And this is a really nice look too. Beautiful hat, and it's flat on the top too. So there you go, and it has the owl eye edge there. So both sides are really beautiful. So you've got a nice reversible hat. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, bye.